Good Tuesday morning, Patriots, and welcome back to O'Connor's Right Stand. I'm your host, John O'Connor, software engineer by day, conservative truth seeker by night. We're witnessing something absolutely historic happening right now in our nation's capital. While I was putting together today's episode, I kept shaking my head at the sheer audacity and brilliance of what Trump just pulled off in Washington, D.C. Before we dive in, I wanted to interject some provoking thoughts. And this is something that's going to make some of you uncomfortable, but it needs to be said. The same principle that allowed D.C. to become a crime-ridden disaster applies to every area of your personal life. What you tolerate, you accept. What you don't actively change, you're choosing to keep. For years, D.C. residents complained about the crime, the homeless encampments, the drug dealers operating openly on the streets. But what did they do? They kept voting for the same politicians, accepting the same excuses, and tolerating the same dysfunction year after year. They got exactly what they were willing to accept. Now, look at your own life. That job that's slowly crushing your soul, but you keep it showing up because at least it's stable. That relationship where you're putting in 80% and getting back 20%. Those financial habits that keep you living paycheck to paycheck while you dream about someday having security. Here's the brutal truth. If you're not actively working to change something, you've decided it's acceptable. Your actions reveal your true priorities, not your complaints. The difference between successful people and everyone else isn't talent, luck, or connections. It's the refusal to tolerate mediocrity in the areas that matter most. Stop waiting for someone else to solve your problems. If it's not working and you're not changing it, you've chosen it. Own that choice or make a different one. Now, both of my parents used to dig that philosophy into me, but being dumb and young, it really didn't sink in until my late 30s. So, maybe think about this in context of your own life and what you are accepting. It's never too late to change something. Now, before we dive into the main event, I've got to address the elephant in the room that the mainstream media is desperately trying to ignore. Trump just executed the most successful federal intervention in a major American city in decades. And the results are already speaking for themselves. But here's really what's got my blood boiling. The same politicians and pundits who cheered when Gavin Newsom cleaned up San Francisco for Xi Jinping are now calling Trump's D.C. operation authoritarian overreach. You heard that right. It's perfectly fine to clean up America's streets for a Chinese communist dictator. But when Trump does it for American citizens, suddenly it's a constitutional crisis? We're going to break down exactly what Trump did, how he did it, why the 30-day clock matters, what needs to happen next, and most importantly, the statistical proof that this intervention is already saving lives in ways that can't be dismissed as coincidence. Ready to see how a real president handles America's urban decay? The Right Stand starts now. Here's what the establishment doesn't want you to understand about Trump's Liberation Day in D.C. Because, once you see how brilliant this was executed, you'll realize he's setting the blueprint for saving every major American city. On Monday, August 11th, Trump invoked Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act, officially placing the Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control and deploying 800 National Guard troops throughout the Capitol. Attorney General Pam Bondi is now in command of MPD, with federal agents from the FBI, DEA, ATF, U.S. Marshals, and Park Police flooding the D.C. streets. But here's the part that's really driving the swamp creatures insane. Trump didn't just talk about cleaning up D.C. He delivered immediate results that are statistically impossible to ignore. Within the first week of federal deployment, over 600 arrests were made, including 251 illegal immigrants who were terrorizing American citizens in our nation's capital. The president himself went on patrol with the MPD and National Guard troops, showing up in the neighborhoods that politicians usually only visit for photo ops. When's the last time you saw any mayor or governor actually walking the streets they claim to be cleaning up? And the results? Almost immediate. Federal agents are dismantling homeless encampments, arresting violent criminals, and clearing out the drug dealers who have turned parts of D.C. into open-air markets. Trump requested $2 billion from Congress to beautify the Capitol, making it clear this isn't a temporary Band-Aid, but a complete transformation of America's most important city. While the media keeps claiming there's no emergency in D.C. and that crime is at historic lows already, let me give you the numbers that absolutely destroy their narrative. Lott Jr. from the Crime Prevention Research Center just dropped a statistical bombshell. D.C. has gone 12 straight days without a single homicide under Trump's federal control. Think that's just coincidence? Think again. Lott crunched the numbers. Compared to the homicide rate during the first 7 months of the year, the odds of 12 consecutive days without a homicide happening by random chance are just 0.37%, or 1 in 272. Compared to 2024 overall, the odds shrink to 0.21%, or 1 in 478. Let me put that in perspective for you. There's a better chance of you getting struck by lightning than D.C. going nearly 2 weeks without having a homicide under their old system. But under Trump's federal control, it's happening right now. And the statistical probability proves this isn't luck. It's competent governance. But that's not all. Lott's previous research revealed that while D.C. politicians claim crime is at 30-year lows, they're hiding the most important statistic: crime lethality. His analysis showed D.C. has the highest violent crime lethality rate among 17 major U.S. cities, with 341% increase in lethality comparing 2012 to 2024 data. Translation? You might have been less likely to be a victim of crime in recent years, but if you were victimized, you were far more likely to die. D.C. went from 13 homicides per 1,000 serious violent crimes in 2012 to 57 homicides per 1,000 serious violent crimes in 2024. The D.C. Police Union has publicly supported the federal takeover, with Chairman Greg Pemberton calling the crime is down narrative an old trope, and saying they're using statistics in a way that makes it appear that crime is going down. But our rank-and-file officers know we're going call to call to call for armed carjacking, stabbings, robberies, shootings, homicides. And I quote that all. Here's where the story gets really ugly, because it turns out the establishment's crime at a historic lows narrative was built on manipulated data. Just weeks before Trump's federal takeover, D.C. Police Commander Michael Pulliam was suspended for allegedly falsifying crime data to make trends look more favorable. The DOJ is now investigating claims that the Metropolitan Police Department systematically manipulated crime statistics. And a whistleblower lawsuit that was quietly settled reveals that this has been going on for years. John Lott explained that this misclassification of crimes affects how the resources for police are going to be distributed. They make it harder for them to get funds, but they also may affect how they're going to allocate funds. Local D.C. officials were allegedly cooking the books to make their failures look like successes, which meant they couldn't get the federal resources they needed while also misallocating the resources they had. It's a perfect storm for incompetence and corruption. Meanwhile, Lott's broader research has shown that the FBI itself has been playing similar games nationally. The FBI quietly updated its 2022 crime data to show a 4.5% increase in violent crime, not the decrease originally reported. The establishment has been lying to you with statistics, and Trump's intervention is exposing the real crime situation while simultaneously fixing it. Here's where the hypocrisy becomes absolutely disgusting. Remember November 2023 when Chinese President Xi Jinping came to San Francisco for the APEC summit? Gavin Newsom mobilized an army of city workers to clean up San Francisco practically overnight. They cleared homeless encampments, scrubbed away graffiti, power washed sidewalks, removed drug paraphernalia, and made the city look presentable. Newsom openly admitted, I know folks say, oh, they're cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming to town. That's true because it's true. He literally said that with a straight face. They cleaned up San Francisco because the Chinese Communist Party leader was visiting. Let me repeat for emphasis. California's governor cleaned American streets to impress a communist dictator, and the media praised him for being pragmatic and results-oriented. But when Trump cleans up American streets for American citizens and achieves statistically impossible results, 12 days without a homicide when the odds were 1 in 478, suddenly is unprecedented, authoritarian, and a threat to democracy. Where was the outrage when Newsom swept homeless Americans out of sight so Xi Jinping wouldn't have to see the consequences of failed progressive policies? Where were the constitutional scholars when California prioritized Chinese optics over American welfare? The answer is simple. They were cheering it on because it served their political agenda. When Democrats clean up cities for foreign dictators, it's smart governance. When Republicans clean up cities for American taxpayers and save American lives with mathematically verifiable success, it's fascism. This double standard exposes everything you need to know about the establishment's priorities. They care more about impressing China's Communist Party than protecting American citizens. The legal eagles in the media keep obsessing over this 30-day limitation like it's some kind of gotcha moment. Let me break down exactly what Section 740 allows and why Trump's timeline is actually perfect. Under the D.C. Home Rule Act, the president can federalize the Metropolitan Police Department for up to 48 hours in emergency conditions. But if he notifies Congress in writing about the emergency, that control extends to 30 days. Anything beyond 30 days requires both the House and Senate to pass a joint resolution. The beautiful part? Trump controls both chambers of Congress. Republicans have already shown near unanimous support for his agenda, and frankly, after seeing the statistically impossible crime reduction, 1 in 478 odds of success by chance, what member of Congress is going to vote to bring back the chaos? The Constitution explicitly grants Congress authority to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over the District of Columbia. D.C. isn't a state with sovereign powers. It's a federal district under federal jurisdiction. Section 740 exists precisely for situations like this. Beyond D.C., the federal government has clear constitutional authority to protect federal facilities, federal employees, interstate commerce, and civil rights. When local governments fail in these areas, federal intervention isn't just legal, it's constitutionally required. This isn't about trampling state sovereignty. This is about fulfilling federal constitutional responsibilities that local governments have abandoned, with mathematical proof that the approach works and saves lives. Trump has already signaled that D.C. is just the beginning. He specifically mentioned Chicago, and after seeing what federal intervention accomplished in D.C., statistically impossible crime reduction, other mayors should be very, very nervous. Chicago has been a war zone for years. Progressive policies have turned America's third largest city into a haven for violent criminals while law-abiding residents live in fear. Mayor Brandon Johnson has proven completely incapable of handling the crisis. Trump has constitutional authority to deploy federal resources to protect federal facilities, federal employees, and interstate commerce. Chicago has major federal buildings, federal courthouses, federal agencies, and infrastructure that affects interstate commerce. If violence in Chicago is interfering with federal operations, the president has clear authority to act. New York City and Los Angeles are in similar territory. The beautiful part of this strategy is that it forces progressive mayors to make a choice. Either fix your city's problems yourself and achieve the same statistically impossible crime reduction that Trump achieved in D.C., or watch the federal government fix them for you. And here's the political genius of starting with D.C. Trump established the legal precedent, proved the effectiveness of federal intervention with mathematical certainty, and demonstrated that Americans overwhelmingly support competent governance over ideological purity when the results include saving lives. Every major American city is now on notice. Fix your crime problem and achieve statistically impossible reductions in violence, or the federal government will fix it for you. The establishment media's reaction to Trump's D.C. operation has been absolutely hysterical. They keep calling federal intervention unprecedented, while ignoring the statistical evidence of 12 straight days without a homicide. The real reason they're panicking is because Trump just proved their entire narrative wrong with mathematical certainty. For years, they've insisted that urban crime and decay are complex problems, requiring nuanced solutions and massive government spending with no accountability. Trump showed that most urban problems can be solved with professional law enforcement, coordinated federal resources, and leadership that prioritizes results over politics. No complex theories, no billion-dollar studies, just competent governance that produces statistically impossible improvements in public safety. The 30-day clock is ticking, and Congress needs to pass that joint resolution extending federal control beyond 30 days. With the Republican majorities in both chambers and the statistically impossible results already visible, this should be a slam dunk. Trump needs to use this month to systematically dismantle the local governance structures that created this mess. Establish permanent federal oversight mechanisms. Use the $2 billion in beautification request as leverage. And document everything, every arrest, every clean street, and most importantly, every day without a homicide that statistically shouldn't be possible under the old system. The goal isn't just to clean up D.C. for 30 days. The goal is to permanently transform how America's cities are governed and managed, using statistical proof that federal intervention saves lives. Step back and look at what Trump has accomplished in just 2 weeks of federal intervention in D.C. He demonstrated that American cities can be clean, safe, and functional when they're managed by people who prioritize results over ideology, and he proved it with statistical evidence that can't be dismissed. Every mayor of every major American city is now on notice. You can either solve your crime and homelessness problems yourself and achieve the same statistically impossible crime reduction Trump achieved in D.C., or the federal government will solve them for you. The contrast with Newsom's cleanup for Xi Jinping exposes establishment's true priorities. They'll move heaven and earth to impress communist China, but they fight tooth and nail against helping American citizens, even when the statistical evidence proves lives are being saved. This is how you drain the swamp at the local level. You prove that competent governance produces immediate results that are statistically impossible to achieve by chance. You establish legal precedents for federal intervention, and you force progressive politicians to choose between ideology and effectiveness when American lives are on the line. The transformation of Washington, D.C. is already underway, with mathematical proof that it's already working. The transformation of American cities is just getting started. The establishment will fight Trump on everything. We know this. We talk about this all the time, including his efforts to make American cities safe for American citizens. Just let that sink in. That tells you everything you need to know about whose side they are on. But the results speak for themselves, and mathematics doesn't lie. Over 600 arrests, cleared encampments, disrupted criminal operations, and most importantly, 12 straight days without a homicide. Meanwhile, the same politicians who cleaned up San Francisco for Xi Jinping are calling Trump's efforts to clean up D.C. for Americans authoritarian overreach. That double standard exposes their priorities perfectly. This is exactly the kind of aggressive, legal, effective leadership we voted for. Trump found a way to bypass failed local governments and directly improve American citizens' lives using his constitutional authority to restore order where progressive policies have created chaos, and proving success with mathematical certainty. Well, that's a wrap for another edition of O'Connor's Right Stand. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to listen. It always means the world to me. If this episode helped you understand what's really happening in D.C. and why it matters for every American city, share it with someone who needs to see through the establishment's spin. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow me on X at O'Connor Stand. Some changes are coming pretty soon to this show, so hopefully I can share those details with you all in the very not-too-distant future. But until then, remember, when the media panics about Trump's success while ignoring statistical proof that lives are being saved, that means we're winning. Keep holding the line unapologetically. This is John O'Connor, signing off.